All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to, sorry, give me a second. Welcome to the final episode. I got choked up. I apologize. The final episode of Summer of Stew.
There she is. We'll say
There's
goodbye.
our girl. There's our summer girl, as Haim would say. Personal Shopper. This movie is the second collaboration between Kristen Stewart and Rob.
Olivia Assayas.
That's what we're going with. I think it's the only movie of his that I've seen. I'm immediately impressed. This is my second time seeing Personal Shopper. So I guess not immediately impressed because I never saw any of his other movies in the 5 years since. The thing I like about Personal Shopper is it reminded me a lot of like a J horror movie, but like a really good one. It was like if Hereafter was a bit spookier. But
Hereafter is plenty spooky.
I like that this movie's doing a lot of different things kind of all at once because like you have this dissection of like a woman's career and like you get to like spend time with her and see like what it is to be a personal shopper for like a professional, like for a supermodel or like a celebrity or somebody who's kind of like a Kardashian almost, where they're like famous for being famous. And just kind of seeing the tedium of the luxury of it all, which is kind of interesting. And then also, I like that it's so, and I'm going to sound very American saying this, but I like how European it is in the sense of it's just like, let's go on a train and go from Paris to London and like for an errand. And like, I like that she's going to train stations and getting a cup of coffee and taking one sip and then just leaving the coffee, or getting like a Stella Artois and taking one sip and just leaving the beer.
Getting paid in euros.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe that's what you do. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like there's a ghost story in it, and it's just indie in a good way. It's very indie, but indie in like an appealing way.
I like that she's a personal shopper slash Ghostbuster. That's the best part about the movie. I have seen Clouds of Silas Maria, and I like that one a lot. I like this one better because it's more case stew.
Yeah, I like it too. This is probably my third time seeing it. The only thing that's missing is like Billy Zane.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, Rob. I like this better than her previous collaboration with Olivia Assayas, and because that movie is sort of the Juliette Binoche
Yeah, it's
show,
more
which is fine. She's super good in that movie, and Kristen Stewart is actually really good in a supporting role. But then to see her step up and take the lead is great. And I feel like this is the movie that really helped almost turn the tide of her career.
Yeah.
Like solidified her as like a true indie darling. She'd been doing indies and stuff, but this is the one that everybody finally was like, oh, okay, we agree to take her seriously.
This movie weaponizes her like nail biting, murmuring, like hoodie up affect in a way that I guess people got like sick of in her sort of Twilight slash up and coming in Hollywood career. Everybody thought she was kind of one note. And then this movie takes it and it's just like, nope, this is exactly what to do with it. This is exactly what this kind of character could be. And she's certainly capable of lots of those, lots of other things, lots more than just that. But this to me is like the platonic ideal of like, she's wearing a pop collar crocodile shirt, she's wandering around texting on her phone, and the degree of effort and the degree of performance that it takes to convey that convincingly and sympathetically is so much harder than people give her credit for. And this movie is just like a wonderful showcase for that.
There's also long sequences that are pretty simple in their design, but are amazing in kind of like how wrapped it makes your like for your attention it can make it. And then that didn't come out right. How good it holds your attention. And I like how suspenseful it is. And I love that it's like one of the few movies that gets texting right, where it's like, oh yeah, conversations go on for 8 hours over several locations throughout a day. Like, I like that. And yeah, just like long sequences of her just kind of doing the minutia of like trying on outfits or like negotiating, what to loan and what to buy and things like that. And it's all like fascinating the way that it's done. And I'm always like curious. It's like, why is it so fascinating? Like, is it just the actor performing? It finds like the right pitch or the right tone to make it interesting, or like, is it the staging? Like, I don't even know the answer to this, but like, I just find it fascinating that like a sequence of her writing a check is like
Yeah.
mesmerizing compared to, you know, the most busy action sequence in like a summer blockbuster.
I think so much of it is because the thesis of the movie early on is that she's waiting, right? The idea is that we get information gradually. We slowly sort of learn that her brother passed away, that she's in Paris, that she's a medium. But like so much of the early part of the movie is people asking her, like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you wasting your time with this? What's going on? And she just keeps saying she's waiting. And so much of the minutia of life, as you mentioned, is a lot of times the prelude to something else, right? We do these things as we're waiting. We go about the sort of day-to-day things as we're kind of hoping to build towards something else. And then it ends up at the end where she says, you know, is it you or is it just me? So much of that pays off that whole like, I'm distracting myself. I'm wasting time to try to avoid processing my grief.
I want to watch this movie as a double feature with Ty West's The Innkeepers, which is a much more sort of working class examination of a lot of these same themes about grief necessarily, but it's just about distracting yourself through this job that you're not really into. And the personal shopper is obviously the rich person's version of this. And to be honest, a lot of the like kind of I like the execution of all the ghost stuff. A lot of the kind of spiritual questions leave me a little bit colder in this movie. Like I'm fine just watching a movie where Kristen Stewart like rides the train and tries on clothes and like just does mundane stuff. I don't even care. But I think those two movies would work well together.
I think the contact with her brother and resolving that grief, for me, even though it's like the crux of the movie, it's the part of the movie that fascinates me the least. Because like when we get to the final scene, I almost don't need it. Like I almost just kind of like, and obviously it's resolving the theme of the movie and everything like that, but like for some reason, just the fact that she's left Paris and kind of has moved on, like seems like that's the win. And like we know that that's more than she was able to do for 6 months. And it's kind of like her making contact. I don't know, and maybe it's just because like the vision of it already happened and she just missed it, but like the audience has seen that.
Right.
I don't know, just kind of like her little, I don't mind it, but like the brief little moment at the end to like wrap up the movie, I almost feel like is like I'm kind of like I'm ready to like get my coat on and leave the theater already.
The reason I like that is because it really does double down on the idea that the signs have been there and she's just been ignored or she hasn't been seen. It's like he cannot make it more obvious. I followed you all the way across the world to give you more signs, and you still weren't seeing them until the very end. And you realize, oh, it's not you, it's me. Because that to me is another part of the movie, which is like I like that both things can be true. Like the movie's not about whether or not there's an afterlife. The movie's not about are the ghosts real? Is the brother at peace? But he could be, and they could be real, and she could be really seeing those things, or they could also be in her head. The catharsis isn't really that part of the movie. She kept waiting for it to be, but it isn't. You know, it's more about herself. But I like that. I like that the movie has even like the the CGI of like the woman, the ghost, where she like vomits, and it's this whole like over the top like wow, that is the movie really making it clear to you that these ghosts are real. Then it's like, well, maybe that's in her head too, but it doesn't matter. It's okay. I like that it's not interested in it. Sometimes movies go out of their way not to answer questions, and you end up getting annoyed with it because the logic sort of sometimes hinges. The storytelling logic will sometimes hinge on whether one thing is true or not. But in this movie doesn't have that, so it's got a really nice opportunity to give you something thematically rich without having to answer every single question.
I'll just throw out one recommendation. If you're looking for a movie like with ghosts and grief and stuff like that, and you like Personal Shopper, I would recommend Casper.
That whole seduction thing with the texter, who I guess if you haven't seen this movie, we won't reveal who the texter is, but that whole sequence where she's texting and she's trying and she's trying on the clothes, and you see that thing where she pivots into, like, she's curious about who it is at first, but then she decides to not trust the person, but she decides to start confessing things to the person, starts saying like, oh, I feel insecure about this, I feel ashamed of myself, I'm trying this anyway because it's exciting, don't you want to be somebody else, and all that. And the way it ends is not what she expected or what we expected, but I love that process of watching her explore that, because it is so much about moving on and about which way she's going to move on to. You know, is she going to be consumed by this type of lifestyle, or is she going to go in a different direction?
I love the scene where she goes to the police station and it turns into an interrogation of sorts because she can't answer the questions without incriminating herself in a way, and also being able to hide the text message conversation and
Yeah,
everything like
yeah,
that. And I just think it's so good, like how deftly she kind of handles that, because it's all like, what she's saying is one layer, but then like how her body language is another layer, and like her kind of pauses and her speech and everything is another layer. And it's this detective, like you could kind of tell is just like a jobber, like he knows what he's doing, and
yeah.
like it's such a good scene. So we have reached the end of the season of Summer of Stew. Who knows? Maybe it'll come back next year. Maybe it'll be like Summer of Stuart Townsend, and we could do Summer of Stew, like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I mean, other
Summer of
Stuart
Stewart
Townsend
Pankin.
movies. Stuart Pankin.
Summer of
Yeah, if you
Patrick
have a
Stewart.
suggestion of other Stuart Gordon, Rod Stewart songs and movies.
Yeah.
Love Touch, Legal Eagles.
So we are going to be taking a week off to recharge our summer batteries for the fall, and we will be back with a review of Samaritan, the Sylvester Stallone Amazon Prime steel looking superhero movie. So until next time.
Did you get my text?